So these are a pair of pretty cheap speakers that I picked up from sort of an estate sale for a couple bucks. And most people will have a pair of these, speakers from some sort of system they had, or you can find these at, thrift stores, yard sales, whatever. Very cheap typically, and they usually sound pretty good. They're usually not bad. These ones aren't bad. They're definitely not high quality or anything, but they're perfectly fine for me. If you want better ones, there's definitely better ones out there. Um, but anyways, so you can take these. Now the problem you'll have once you get these is how do you drive them? Because you want to actually be able to use Bluetooth or a 3.5 uh, aux plug to drive them from something. So you can go on Aliexpress or eBay or Amazon. I got these from Aliexpress, and that's where I recommend you get them from because they're significantly cheaper. And basically, what these are, this one is a 120 volt AC to 24 volt DC converter. So this is the power supply, and then this is the audio amplifier. So the way these are hooked up is you have 120 volt cable, so that's your standard plug. Now the one I used is I just found an old extension cord, kind of one of those really cheap old ones that you have lying around, and I just cut it, and then I put the leads into the board where it takes 120 volt AC. This one says it can take up to 220, but it also said it can take 120, which is important. Um, and this one, the leads do not appear to have any sort of polarity to them, so you can put the hot and the neutral in whichever one. It doesn't appear to matter, but you do need to check that. Um, but it's pretty simple. You just put each lead into each one. Just make sure you're putting them into the AC input, not the DC output. So this is the DC output over here. So you can see it has positive and negative. And then you just connect those leads, and then those DC leads go to the amplifier. Now I specifically bought a 24 volt amplifier over a 12 volt, which are cheaper and more available because I didn't want to overwhelm the power cables because this one says it's 40 volts, or excuse me, 40 watts on each channel. I don't think it actually is. Most things you'll get from China are the specs are wishful thinking, basically. But I didn't want to chance it. I wanted it to have plenty of voltage to, send the watts that it needs through here without having some sort of crazy heavy gauge cable. This is just some 14 gauge speaker cable that I had lying around. Um, and I'm actually going to replace this one. I don't recommend this specific amplifier. This was extremely cheap. I think it was $3, or it may have been even less. That's really too cheap. Um, it it's only Bluetooth. There's no 3.5, which I didn't realize when I bought it. I thought it also had an aux plug. It does not. So that's kind of annoying. Because I bought this for a computer, so I prefer not to have to use Bluetooth since it's stationary. I'll just plug it in. And it sometimes it has these weird pauses. So like it'll be playing music and it'll just have this like half-second pause. And I assume that's whatever cheap Bluetooth chip is on this board is just a little bit overwhelmed with what's going on. So I'm going to buy a different one also from AliExpress. I already have it on the way. And it's just a little bit more expensive one. Hopefully gives me a little better sound quality. Because really this amplifier, that's where all your sound quality is going to come from. If it has any sort of distortion or um, just lack of power. You know, your volume's going to come from here. So if you're going to overspend on any part of this, it's probably going to be the amplifier that you want to get a nice one. I like that they're just boards though. They're not units, because then what you can do is you just mark, usually they're going to have, you know, holes to attach them. So you can just mark where those are on the back of your speaker or some other convenient place. Drill little pilot holes and then just screw them on. I just used these sheet metal screws and that worked great. It's on there very securely. Now this amplifier board, another reason I don't like it is because the mount holes are tiny. They're way too tiny for any screw that I have. So I just hot glued it on there for now. And then when I get the new one, I think the new one that I have coming has bigger mount holes. So I'll just mount that the same way I did the power board. But it works fine for the time being. So basically the amplifier just has a bunch of outputs. And if you're gonna, this one is labeled on the back side. So before you mount it, make sure I wrote down here which each output is. So we've got the power, positive and minus, and we have this each speaker positive and minus. And then it's just a matter of connecting up all the cables where they go. Each speaker, typically, these speakers had wire attached to them, which isn't great. I wish they were, they could be disconnected, but it's fine. And they have a white stripe, which indicates the negative wire. But for yours, you're going to need to figure out the polarity of them. Possibly through trial and error. And then it's pretty simple. You just have these screw terminals. You just loosen them up, stick the wire in, and then tighten them down. Now, the end of each one of these wires, before I put them into the screw terminal, I soldered them. Let me see if I can show you. Here's you can see the end of it sticking out there, how it's all, you know, gray and soldered. I just did that to hold them together. That gets a much better connection in the screw terminal if they're a solid wire instead of the strands, because the strands just kind of get pushed out of the way. So that's a nice thing to do. It'll give you a much more solid connection there. I'm not too crazy about all these screw terminals. They are a little bit weak. You can see they kind of, when you actually try and tighten them down, they kind of bend into the plastic a little bit. I don't really like that, but the connection is fine. It's been working great so far, so no real issue there. These amplifier boards, typically, I would use the screw terminals. I don't see any benefit to using these barrel plugs. It's just an alternate way to provide power to it. Typically, they'll have both. And definitely I would look for one that has screw terminals already on it. I would not get one that just has, like some of them, they don't have this terminal block. They just have little solder points for each connection. I wouldn't want to deal with that. I think that's too much of a hassle, and you won't be able to disconnect stuff easily and connect it back up. So I would just get one that has screw terminals. And then the way these work, this is like if you press this, it does like some sort of Bluetooth pairing. And then if you go right or left, I'm not even sure which direction it is, it raises or lowers the volume. I don't really mess with this. I just control the volume through my computer. And it kind of just, when you turn it on, I'll show it turning on so you can see what it does. So you just plug it in and then you'll see now it's looking for a device to pair to it automatically when you turn it on. You can see the power board is on. And then it just paired to my computer, I believe. So yeah, they're very simple. Even the Bluetooth ones, like I said, I don't really care for the Bluetooth for a computer, but there's many that have both. They have a Bluetooth and an aux connector, and that's what I would recommend you get. And then you can just kind of tidy up these wires, make sure they're the right length. And then you have a nice little speaker setup, but you don't need a receiver or any external device driving it. You just kind of have this nice tidy package behind one of the speakers, and then when you set it somewhere, you can't even tell that all that's behind there. So thanks for watching, and if you like this setup, this is definitely a little project you can do for yourself for not very much money. I'll try and link the parts I used in the description to Aliexpress, but those links, they tend to disappear pretty quickly, but it's very easy to find this stuff on Aliexpress. They always have many variations of basically the same thing, and they're all pretty much, from my experience, they're all pretty much the same product. They all come out of like some very similar factories. I have very, for how cheap this stuff is, I've had very good luck with these Chinese electronics. I don't know that I've ever had one that just didn't work out of the box. They always seem to work. Sometimes they don't work great, like this amplifier board. Like I said, not crazy about it. But remember, this was like $3. So you can get more expensive. You get what you pay for. And if you spend, that little amount of money, you're probably just not going to get a great quality product. But I'm gonna try the one I ordered is like $12 or something. So we'll see if that one's any better. So thanks for watching.